Hi, everyone. Hi, this is Shannon Port. Welcome to the Art of the Feminine podcast. All right. So, hello. It's so good to be here. This is Friday, July 13th. So, we're meeting on a Friday the 13th, and I just want to check in and make sure everything's okay. I muted my phone. I can see you on chat. I have you on my phone and on another computer over here. So, welcome. Jen and Suzanne and Bonnie. It's nice to see all of you. Today, we are going to be talking about Jupiter direct. And so we're going to be talking about all kinds of themes around abundance, infinite resources, and even 0 point energy. And so if for any reason you cannot, oh, I like it, Seven Serpents. If you can't hear me, please let me know, but it looks like it's good. Okay. All right. So if you're new to the channel, this is the Art of the Feminine podcast. We meet every single Friday. I aim for 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but it could happen anytime between 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, probably 3 p.m. at the latest. And so just subscribe to the channel and you'll get the notification when I post the link to the live stream. We're using live streams for this as of right now and really enjoy it. And so it's nice to see that some people have come on live today. So here we use the wisdom of alchemy, of metaphysics, of the esoteric teachings, the ancient wisdom of our lineage as human beings that is lost and forgotten most of the time. And so we're using the wisdom of the divine feminine, which is something I've been working with for almost 20 years now. And we work with the archetypal wisdom of astrology. So sometimes I refer to it as divine feminine astrology, but it's also light body astrology and archetypal astrology. I like to look at the sky and the dance in the sky as a theater, the theater of life, and it's the theater of the psyche. And so we look at the projection of the collective, both our light and our shadow, and we look at the relationships and what they're pointing to, what areas of our lives are being lit up, and how we can use the information that we receive just to create, to make good, to go back and redo anything that we want to redo, and to create more abundance and more love in our lives, because we're creative beings and that's what Jupiter is all about. And so I'm really excited to talk about Jupiter today. Let's see. I'm hoping it's clear this week. I have so much light in this space. I had to shut my blinds almost entirely just not to have it be so light like it's been. All right, so it's Friday the 13th. I want to start by saying that. And it's Friday the 13th. Many of us know the story around Friday the 13th and why Friday the 13th is associated with a lot of negative feelings, that it's associated with the massacre of the Templars and all of the mythology and allegory and history that comes around that. So I wanted to start and honor what some of that means. And we won't go deeply into the story of it, but we'll look at it in terms of the archetypes, because it's very potent for what we're talking about today. And so if we were to look at the Templars were said, and some of the other groups around them were said to hold great wisdom and teachings and wealth for humanity and for the planet, and that this wealth was also of a cosmic origin, that it was from beyond. It held information around stargates and wisdom and sacred union. And so the massacre of that wisdom, the abolishing it, the annihilation of that wisdom, the hijacking of that wisdom, the suppressing of that wisdom, the manipulation, the robbery of that wisdom represents something very significant for us. Because if we look at it through the archetypes and through allegory, it represents the ways in which we sabotage our own inner grail and our own inner wisdom. Jupiter is really associated with wisdom. Jupiter rules um, Sagittarius and Pisces, but in Sagittarius, it's connected with philosophy, spirituality, knowledge, justice, balance. It's all of those things that we're so interested in on the outside, but it's really the archetype for Sagittarius is art, is temperance. It's really the archetype for alchemy, because temperance represents the perfect blending, the alchemical blend of the light and the dark, which is key 14. That's the key for Sagittarius. And so Jupiter in that way represents alchemy. And Jupiter is in Scorpio. It's at 13 degrees. So Friday the 13th, we're going to talk about 13 as one of the archetypes. All right. And just to check in to see if you can hear me, and it looks like you can. Hi. Hello, Tam. So Jupiter has stationed direct at 13 degrees of Scorpio. It's been retrograde since, I believe, March 8th, where it went retrograde at 23 degrees of Scorpio, and stationed direct just a couple days ago, July 10th, just right before. By the way, we just had the solar eclipse. So we're, in fact, today, Friday the 13th, we're bathing still in the energies in the portal in the window of the solar eclipse. And I did a video about the solar eclipse last Friday. Jupiter's at 13 degrees as of July 10th, and even before, but it's stationing direct at 13. So we're going to talk about the archetype of 13 because it's Friday the 13th, and 13, there's a lot of mystery and intrigue, and even stigma around the number 13. It's used, but it's truly, from my point of view and from where I'm coming from, one of the archetypes, the great archetypes of the goddess and the feminine. We'll call it the feminine divine, the divine feminine, because 13 is the archetype of Scorpio. And so Jupiter is stationing direct at 13 degrees for almost 3 weeks, which I like to read the numbers, because part of what the language of the feminine and the universe that I work with is based on archetypes, which are numbers, which are sounds, which are colors, which are images, which are symbols. And numbers are one of the most profound units of archetypal wisdom and information. So when we look at 13, where Jupiter is stationed, we see that it chose to station right at the archetype for Scorpio. This is big because there's been so much activity. Scorpio rules sexuality. It rules resources, shared resources. Scorpio is an archetype of sacred union because it's about merging. It's about, first of all, merging with the other. Scorpio isn't interested in just being isolated power. Scorpio wants to know what it's like to merge power with another. And on the darker side of that, Scorpio may even want to know what it's like to dominate and take power from another sexually, through financial gain, through even just through life force energy. And so, as you can see, Scorpio being having this energy with Jupiter and Scorpio is the perfect alchemical blend of potency, of wealth, of sexuality, of resources. Jupiter, the archetype for Jupiter, so Scorpio is 13, death and regeneration. The archetype for Jupiter is the Wheel of Fortune. And so Jupiter, I just want to give you background on this before we get into some of the infinite resources and 0 point. I believe Jupiter is 0 point energy and is the portal, the stargate to 0 point. The Wheel of Fortune is the Hebrew letter Kaf. Kaf is the open hand. It's the hand in the palm of the hand. It's the hand that receives. And so the Wheel of Fortune represents the elements and the spinning of the elements to create in form. The archetype, on the archetypes, you'll see the fixed signs that, and what this represents is the spinning of the wheel of the zodiac as well, and all the elemental life force energy. Everything is energy. Everything is life force and forces of nature. This is the archetype for Jupiter, and that's why Jupiter is considered to be the Lord of Lords, the God of Gods, the giver of gifts of good luck. Jupiter rules material wealth as well as spiritual wealth. And then we talked about wisdom, knowledge, philosophy, all of even the esoteric teachings. And the esoteric teachings are very highlighted in Scorpio as well. So let's see, where do we want to go from here? So the Hebrew letter for death for 13 is Nun. Nun is the potency of the fish. And so what do we think of when we think of in symbolism? We think of the Christ force. We think of the fish is often used to represent the archetype of the Christ. And the Nun is the potency of that force. That is the archetype 13. And so in the archetype of Scorpio. So now we're seeing how potency, life force, the elemental powers and the spinning of those elements leads us to the understanding of how we are capable of accessing infinite resources, limitless wealth, limitless creativity, and abundance through 0 point energy. And so let me just take a look and see where we want to go from here. So we see 13 is Nun. Jupiter is the wheel of fortune. 13 is also sacred union because it's about merging. And the wheel of fortune is about the portal of the heart and how the heart creates. In the archetypes, the Empress, which is 3, works through the wheel of fortune to spin the elements to create the world. And so we know that within our own heart and within our own creative imagination, we have the power to affect the environment. The elements respond to us. We tell stories. We love mythology. We love allegory. We love religion. We love stories. We love storytelling. The stories we tell spin the elements for us. There are great archetypes that are universal and that find themselves in every single tradition. As you begin to work with everything, you see that everything is everywhere. And so what's happening right now on Earth, there's a lot of battling over beliefs, whether it's religious belief systems, whether it's over the light and the dark, whether it's over who you worship and who you're praying to and how your God is trying to kill my God and my God killed your God and on and on and on. It's important that we have those, and it's also very important that we're able to connect with these archetypes that we feel most drawn to because we're sovereign. And so I'm going to take a quick peek down at this and see where you guys are at. So eventually I'll see, I keep meaning to take questions, but if you want to write a question, write it in all capital letters. It's easier for me to pick it out when I take a peek down there. So sovereignty is a big part of this theme. It's huge. Sovereignty, going back to the Knights Templar and the massacre and what this day, Friday the 13th, represents. We are coming into a time when we're getting more wise and when we're waking up to understand that the Grail, that the true Templar, which is the template, is within us. We are the Templar. We are the template of this sacred union. Whether or not these things happened in 3D, the way we hear about them or talk about them, I believe there's always a blend of allegory and myth and history happening at once. We can fight over it, and we may never know the real details because history is so flexible and changeable. There are things that happen for sure. And so going back to what we talked about in the past couple of videos, there's absolutely things that happen, but whether we know the truth about them, how we each perceive them and experience them emotionally is going to determine how they act upon each one of us individually. So yes, an event is an event. When it happens, it happens. Certain events happen. But our history has been so skewed and hindered on many levels. We don't know everything yet. There'll be a time when we'll get to see things a little bit more clearly. But what it's important to understand, if when we look at things as an artist and through mythology and allegory, then we realize that we partake of every story. There's no story that's ever existed that we weren't there for. We've been there for all of it, and we resonate with all of it when we take that story into our heart. And so, that being said, Jupiter stationing direct with all the eclipses this summer, it's right in between the solar eclipse in Cancer and the total lunar. It's going to be at 13 until the end of the month when we have this total lunar eclipse in Aquarius. It's staying at 13 in between these two huge transformational energies. And that's a statement that regeneration and understanding our inner template is monumental at this time. It's huge. We don't have sovereignty fully because we don't have our own resources and access to our own ability to create those resources fully understood yet. It's coming, it's getting close, and I'm seeing it in my own work. And that's when I talk about the veil lifting. What I'm talking about for myself is understanding that w- the co-creation that happens with every word that I speak, with everything that I put my gaze upon, with everything that I listen to, with everything that I put on a keyboard, with everything that I create for work. And I want to say something in that in my work is so creative that I get to live this. And so a lot of this information I'm speaking from experience, that this creative well within us is a constant stream. It's a spring. Some of the ancient teachers called it a spring, a wellspring. That's why we think of the feminine as this eternal spring. That's the grail within us that gives. And so now, how can we bring this in and make it really practical for us now? So we talked about some of the archetypes. We talked about sexuality. We all know that there's been huge movement in healing and regenerating sexuality in the planet. Healing between the masculine and feminine, which doesn't just necessarily mean between men and women. It means between the mind and the heart, between the right brain and the left brain, between the North Pole and the South Pole, between the right side and the left side of the body is, and there's more. I mean, we could go on and on. The electric and the magnetic. It's about the upper chakras and the lower chakras, heaven and earth, spirit and matter. That is happening right now. And so we're merging. That's the true merging. And each one of us is going to be doing that on our own. And so let's get into 0 point. Let's talk a little bit about 0 point. I have a really wonderful quote to read from a poet, from a lyric writer that shares on my page a lot. I want to say that sovereignty is abundance and abundance is sovereignty. We need both. And so this is a powerful time to be really focused on creating sovereignty through creating abundance. The wealth will come. There are all kinds of blocks and things inhibiting some of the flow of this life force on this planet, but it doesn't matter. It's no excuse to not work. We can find it within ourselves, and I guarantee that. I see it every day with people that I work with. In fact, we have to do that, because us doing that, we change the outer picture. The more people, every single person that does this on the inside begins to change the outer. If you can find the time to do this in your life, you will become in generosity, in service to everybody in your community, everybody around you, because you'll hold it in your auric field. The auric field. Okay, so now getting into 0 point. Our aura is our. Do you think the state of sacred union involves just two people? Oh, that's a great question. No, collectively, we need to get the whole collective on board, because this is online. We are merging. All of us are going to go together. There's now sacred sexual union, there's all different levels of that. I teach a 7-week course called Light Body Tantra where we address that a lot. But right now, sacred sexuality, if you are called to that in your union, is very powerful and potent. It absolutely can open a 0 point portal, and it opens. 0 point is the heart, and the heart is the wellspring that we're talking about. It's um the endless source, the limitless light flows through. And so I want to talk about how we can steer the wheel, because the wheel of fortune, which is Jupiter in our heart, we have to steer it, or we have to let our divine self and our divine will steer it. So let me just see if there's anything else to say about sacred union. Between two people, it's profound. Two people who love each other, who are carrying energies and blending the poles, are very, very powerful. Like everything, there's been a lot of manipulation and information to appeal to the parts of us that lose focus and start to wander to other sources to understand what that to get our idea of what that means, which by that I mean it takes us a little bit more into the ego level or to the lust level, but not, and we all need desire. I'm not talking about desire, but in the collective, I've talked about this a lot in my videos, so I won't go too deep into it, but there's all kinds. In fact, we'll go deeply into sacred union as we go through the summer, maybe even a little bit more as we go. But sacred union is a collective journey as well that we're all on. And when you achieve it yourself, you can see the future timeline of sacred union already taking place. All right, so I want to just talk about, this is really important for creating wealth and opening up 0 point, because I know a lot of you are going to want to came here for that, and talking about infinite resources. So how the heck to open this? How do we do it? The elementals are connected to our feelings and to our feeling force. And that's why the Empress and the feeling force is so incredibly powerful to understand. It's our heart and how we feel and our mind. And sacred union is the merging of the mind and the heart. We have to have a more mature, it's interesting because on one level, we're having an innocence of our inner child. We want to be innocent. On the other hand, we want to be somewhat wise and understand that we have this harmonic spectrum, and our emotions fall along the spectrum, both up and down and horizontally. In fact, we're working with two spectrums of emotions and thoughts, the horizontal and the vertical. If we want to steer the wheel, which is right in the center of that cross, that opens 0 point. That's the perfect merging of the horizontal and the vertical, which in many teachings represent the masculine and feminine. Understanding that how we feel and how we think is going to absolutely determine the access that we have to this wheel in our heart, this wheel of spinning the elements. It's absolutely true. I will speak from my own experience that, I do a lot of different work in creating and interacting every single day of my life with many, many people, many, many different platforms. And I have my personal life, and I have a son, and I have all kinds of work that I do here locally. And so there's a lot of moving pieces. I can see without a doubt that the way that I think and feel on any given day determines what opens up for me. Absolutely. Whether it's with a client, whether it's writing a post for social media, whether it's even going to the grocery store and getting my groceries, or going for a hike. The way I feel, and things are constantly shifting and moving, that nothing is static. So we can always change. There is no good or bad. There's only more limiting, contracting thoughts and more expansive, free-flowing currency. Think gold. Gold is the sun. And noon, by the way, the Hebrew letter noon is the 24th path on the tree of life. It's the path from Tiferet to Netzach, which is the path of the sun to Venus. Noon is the potency that brings the Christ force to the heart, to Venus. That being said, alone is huge to understand. Everything is potency. If we get caught up in arguing about religion, mythology, we need to each take the mythology that works for us and use it. And the truth will open up for each one of us. We're all here to have our own sovereign experience. So, okay, so where was I going with that? Oh, yes. So feelings and emotions. So obviously, everything out there can be a trigger. And we talked about the endocrine system last time, and there's absolutely we get bombarded with energy. I was just on my live stream today, or my Facebook stream today, and President Trump is in the UK, and oh my gosh, just tuning into that before I came on this video, seeing how many what's being posted is a massive force of energy just to take that in. And so we're getting these things everywhere. And because it was in a pretty neutral state and I'm really tuned in, I could take it in and use it creatively. But let's say it was a hard day, or feeling overworked, or feeling like a victim, or feeling sorry for herself, or feeling attacked, and you see that, then it could be a game changer. It could ruin your day. So part of this whole thing is getting really creative and active, whether it's, some people do yoga, whether it's getting outside in nature, which is what really does it for me. I also have lots of different yogic practices I use as well. And so music is huge. Work with music. Get your emotions to where they feel where you have energy, and then begin to create and tune in. There is a merging of the mind and the heart, which opens that field of neutrality. When that field opens, it doesn't mean that we're boring or neutral. It means that then we begin to create, we begin to call up from our own inner well the resources. That is the true 0 point. When we are able to shape our reality, that's the stargate that we're all looking for. It's the big one. There's stargates everywhere, and we in within us as well, but there's one big one. Like, there's many paths, but there's one big one. There's one center path, that was one stream of life that comes right from the mother's heart into each one of our hearts. We're each a ray of the sun, and we each have our own stream straight from the divine womb of the mother that we came from, our own umbilical cord. Beyond that, we can go on and on about what's really happening in our cosmos with the ascension of consciousness, with the shifting of the planet, with the waking up. There's going to be a lot of things. And I like to, when I'm doing the lunar cycles, I like to talk about what's really going on in the world, and look at how we can use the archetypal energies to work with that. But for right now, this video is just meant to see that Jupiter going direct is huge. Find out what house Scorpio is for you. It's very simple. There's a million astrology sites where all you have to do is go and find out your houses. Um, where Jupiter falls will determine the energy that's really being activated, but in the collective, it's being activated everywhere. And if you're intuitive, you're going to feel it and you're going to know. And sometimes just knowing the house limits us, because the natal chart really governs our personality that we're embodying. It holds things from the past, but there are more and more levels. And when we talk about 0 point, we're shooting straight to the top. We're going flying past our natal chart. Our natal chart is a great roadmap, but we're going through the sun, into the central sun, into the central sun of the whole. And so that is where 0 point comes from. And it's source. It's our creative light. I'm just going to look over here. Does anybody have anything specific right now that you want to throw out there? If you do, I'll take a check over before, as we begin to finish up. It's about 30 minutes. So let me just take a moment and see. We talked about 13. We talked about sacred union. Talked about the Templars and the significance of this day. Oh, yeah, I'm going to read the quote. Okay, so this is I've been reading a lot of artist quotes, and I think it's beautiful to. I work with a lot of visionary artists and poets, and on the Art of the Feminine platform, and so that's another thing. connect with artists and connect with music, because if you want to open up, sometimes we need to open up the depth of the well of emotion, and that's what the lunar energy does. This we have big things to talk about next week for the Aquarius total lunar eclipse, but for right now I just want to leave with this quote. I just accidentally closed it. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right. So this quote is from Adam Kevin Barry Clark. He posts on my personal page all the time. He posts twice a week. He writes lyrics. I call it poetry. He calls it lyrics, but he's just a fabulous writer. And I saw this recently in one of his lyrics, and they range from very light and positive to going into the depth of the heaviness of what we're experiencing. And that's part of being an artist, is being able to help be cathartic for humanity. And so the catharsis and the purging is very important too. All right, so this was part of his poem, that there is no true definition, just interpretation. This was the last part of it. Breathe your breath into your body. Fulfill yourself. Fill your lungs. Be tutored by your mistakes. The being who is bound and chained, but can go anywhere within their mind, will never be a slave. Think of what you want for the future and feel it like you're already there. When cursing your luck, please be aware. Occurrences at times attract towards the fate for which you prepared. I'm going to read it again a little bit quicker, but that's it. That's what we're talking about. The way we think, the way we feel, and what we prepare for, we begin to create. Now, this is coming through my filter and my platform. And so there's many different ways to look at this, obviously, but I wanted to end on this note for this one. Breathe and breathe. The breath is the power of the breath. That's prana. Breathe your breath into your body. Fulfill yourself. Fill your lungs. Be tutored by your mistakes. The being who is bound and chained, but can go anywhere within their mind, will never be a slave. Think of what you want for the future and feel it like you're already there. When cursing your luck, please be aware occurrences at times attract towards the fate for which you prepared. And I wanted to say, I love what he says about fulfill yourself, because each one of us have to fill ourselves up. And then when we meet people who are in such a situation where they cannot do it for themselves, we can help fill them up. But if we have the power, if you have the power to be sitting here watching this video, you have the power to fill yourself up. If you have the power to take a deep breath and a long exhale and fill your lungs, you have the power to tap 0 point. In fact, 0 point can be tapped with one breath. With one breath. It's that easy. It's the shift. So I'm going to start to close out for today. Remember to meet me every Friday here on this channel. And oh, thank you for coming from Brazil. It's so wonderful. Oh, hi, Anya. This is great. I'm getting a new system, so I'm going to be able to see all the comments as I'm doing this and be a little bit more fluid. So just want to say, subscribe to the channel for the updates to know exactly what time every Friday. Please join me live when you can. And for information to reach me, under the description box where it says show more. Oh, I want to say something. I wrote a post about 0 point, an article. I linked that post in the description box where it says show more. If you click down, I wrote something on my Facebook page on Art of the Feminine about 0 point. I just wrote it. Or just reposted it. And the link to that article is in the description box. And so that being said, thank you for all of you who joined me live, and have a wonderful week preparing for the next eclipse. Enjoy the eclipse energies and the new moon. The moon is waxing for 2 weeks. Waxing moon, time to create. And so use the waxing energy to create. And that being said, I will see you next Friday. Have a wonderful week.